My name is Rita. I'm 28 years old. 3 days after I gave birth alone, still bleeding, my newborn son sleeping on my chest, my own father looked me dead in the eyes and said, "When you recover, go back to your in-laws. We don't want you here." My mother crossed her arms and added coldly, "You're not our responsibility anymore. You never really were." My husband had just burned to death in his workshop. I had no one. I was exhausted, broken, and holding a 3-day-old baby. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I simply stayed silent. They thought my silence meant defeat. It didn't. Because while they were busy throwing me away, I had already made one phone call they would regret for the rest of their lives. And when that man walked into my hospital room 2 days later with a detective at his side, my father's face turned ghost white. He spun toward the door and tried to run. That was the moment everything they'd done in the dark finally started to burn. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Now, let me tell you what happened next. I heard the footsteps first. Room 3B at St. Vincent Medical Center had thin walls. I'd been there long enough to recognize the different sounds, the soft shuffle of nurses changing shifts at 2:15, the quick click of doctors making rounds, the hesitant steps of visitors who weren't sure they were in the right place. These footsteps were different, heavy, deliberate. Work boots on hospital tile. I looked up from Owen sleeping on my chest. November 28th, 2:18 in the afternoon. The door opened. My father didn't smile, didn't ask how I was feeling. He scanned the room like he was taking inventory. The bassinet by the window, the IV pole I was still hooked up to, the discharge papers sitting on the counter across from my bed. He didn't look at Owen. Not once. My mother stood behind him, carrying a folder. Not flowers, not a baby gift. Just a manila folder with sticky tabs already sticking out from the edges. She walked to my bed and placed it on my lap. No congratulations. No, what's his name? Just the folder, dropped like an invoice. "When are they discharging you?" my father asked. Not, "How are you feeling?" Not, "Can I hold him?" Just, "When are they discharging you?" I shifted Owen slightly. My hands were shaking. December 1st, maybe 2nd. They want to monitor. That's almost a week. He checked his watch. 2:19. Then checked it again 30 seconds later. 2:20. My mother stepped back toward the door. Still hadn't looked at Owen, her grandson, 3 days old. 72 hours. She wouldn't make eye contact with him. "We need to talk about what happens next," my father said. I felt my whole body tense. Owen stirred against my chest. I put my hand on his back, his tiny back. 6 pounds, 3 ounces. Born 1 week early because my body couldn't hold him any longer after Aaron died. "Aaron's family should be handling this," my father continued. "You have in-laws for this." I stared at him. "Handling what?" "You." He said it like I was a problem that needed solving. "You can't come home with us. We're not set up for a baby." My mother nodded. "You're an adult now, Rita. You need to figure this out." The words hit me like cold water. I looked down at Owen, at his perfect sleeping face, at the hospital bracelet they'd put on his tiny wrist that read, "Baby boy, November 25th, 2025, 6:23 a.m. "You're saying this now?" My voice came out quieter than I meant it to. "While I'm still—" "When you recover," my father interrupted, "go back to your in-laws. We don't want you here." My mother's face didn't change. "You're not our responsibility anymore. You never really were." The room went silent. Owen made a small sound in his sleep. I looked at the folder on my lap. My mother reached over and opened it. Insurance forms. 3 pages with bright yellow sticky tabs marking signature lines. "Sign here, here, and here," she said, her voice flat, mechanical. I looked at the forms. The first page had my name. The second had Aaron's. The third page was missing. I could see where it had been pulled from the staple. Page 3 just gone. What if Aaron's parents can't help either? I asked, testing them, seeing if there was any softness left. My father was already moving toward the door. That's not our concern. You're an adult. Figure it out. 11 minutes. I checked the visitor log later. They arrived at 14:06. They left at 14:17. 11 minutes total. My mother paused at the door. Call us when you're settled. Settled, meaning far away. Settled, meaning not asking for help. The door closed behind them. I sat there, still bleeding through the pad they'd given me. Still wearing a hospital gown. Still hooked to an IV because my blood pressure kept dropping. Still holding my 3-day-old son who would never meet his father. And I realized something. They had timed this. The shift change was at 2:15. The hallway would be empty. No nurses at the station to hear what they said. No witnesses to how they'd just told their daughter, their only daughter, to leave with a newborn baby and nowhere to go. I looked at the folder, at the sticky tabs, at the missing page 3. Then I looked at my phone on the bedside table. I'd already made my decision. But first I needed to understand what I was fighting. The folder sat on my lap for 3 hours before I opened it again. Owen slept. The nurses came and went. My in-laws, Aaron's parents, Tom and Linda, had gone back to their hotel to rest. They'd been here since the morning after Aaron died, driving 8 hours overnight from Boise. They'd met Owen, held him, cried for the grandson Aaron would never see. But my own parents hadn't come. Not until today. 10 days after Aaron's death. 3 days after I gave birth alone in this same room. And when they finally showed up, they stayed 11 minutes. I opened the folder, insurance claim forms, but something about them felt wrong. I pulled out my phone and scrolled back, way back, to September 15th, the day my father showed up at our house with his old briefcase, the one he'd had when he still worked in insurance before he retired 3 years ago. I remember thinking it was odd that he still had it, still carried it like he was going to a meeting. Rita was 7 months pregnant then. We were in that phase where everything felt urgent and terrifying and exciting all at once. The baby was real. We could feel him moving. We needed to prepare. And my father knew that. We need to talk about protecting the baby, he'd said. Sunday afternoon. Unannounced. My mother sat on our couch, nodding along. Young families are vulnerable, he continued. What if something happens to Aaron before the baby comes? What if something happens to you? I remember Aaron shifting next to me. Uncomfortable. But my father kept going. You need life insurance. Significant coverage. $825,000. Aaron's eyebrows went up. That's a lot. I'm a woodworker, not a... You're about to be a father. My father cut in. His voice sharp, shaming. This is basic responsibility. My mother added, we just want Rita and the baby taken care of. I'd put my hand on Aaron's arm. It's okay. My dad knows this stuff. And Aaron had nodded. Because he loved me. Because he didn't want to cause problems with my family. Because he trusted that my father was trying to help. $825,000. My father repeated. Not, I recommend, or, you should consider. He stated it like a fact, like it was the only correct answer. Aaron asked, why that specific amount? Why not 500,000 or, do you care about my daughter's future or not? The question hung there, weaponized, making Aaron prove his love by signing. Of course I do, Aaron said quietly. My father slid the papers across our kitchen table, pens already placed on the signature lines. I signed first. Page 7. My name where it said insured party, primary. Aaron signed next. Same page. his name where it said insured party, spouse. My father witnessed both signatures, then added his own name somewhere. I didn't see where. His hand covered the section while Aaron was looking at me, making sure I was okay with all this. "I'll file these for you," my father said, gathering all the copies. One less thing to worry about. The next day, September 16th, he paid the first 6 months of premiums, $3,200, upfront, in cash. "It's a baby gift," he'd said. Aaron had written something in his phone that night. I found it later. The note said, "G pushed really hard on $825,000, asked how he calculated it. He changed subject. Why 825? Why not 500 or 1 million? Feels weirdly specific. Rita trusts him. Don't want to cause problems. But something's off." 5 days after that, Aaron put all the insurance documents in an envelope, labeled it in his handwriting. "Important. Insurance stuff. Keep this copy." Dated September 20th. He'd put it in my hospital bag. "Just in case," he'd said. "Keep it with you." I didn't understand why then. I understood now. I pulled the envelope from my bag, the one the nurses had brought from our house after the fire, after Aaron died. The bag I'd packed 2 months ago for the baby's birth. I opened it. Full insurance policy, complete. Nothing missing. I compared it to the forms my parents had just brought. Page 3 was missing from their version. I looked at my copy. Page 3. Beneficiary rights and options. A whole page about how the primary beneficiary could decline the payout, contest it, redirect funds, or request review. My father had removed that page. He needed me not to know I had options. I kept reading. Page 4. The section we'd never actually read before signing. Primary beneficiary, Rita Howard. Benefit amount, $825,000, 100%. Then below it, IKI's secondary beneficiaries, in event of primary beneficiary's death or declination. Gerald Howard, 50%. Judith Howard, 50%. My father had buried this on page 4, pointed us to page 7 for signatures. We'd never read the middle sections. If Aaron and I both died, my parents would split $825,000, $412,500 each. I looked at the date on the policy. September 15th, 2025. The fire that killed Aaron. November 18th, 2025. 9 weeks. 4 days. I pulled up my phone, went to Aaron's messages, the ones I couldn't delete even though seeing his name made my chest hurt. November 17th, the night before he died. 11:52 p.m. My father to me. "How are you feeling, sweetie? Did they send you home yet?" 11:55 p.m. Me to my father. "Still here, keeping me overnight. Contractions stopped but monitoring." 11:58 p.m. My father to Aaron. "Hey Aaron, Rita's staying at hospital tonight. You doing okay alone? Need anything?" 12:04 a.m. Aaron to my father. "I'm good thanks. Finishing Brennan order. Should be done by 2. 2:06 a.m. That's when the fire started. Exactly 2 hours after Aaron told my father he'd be working alone until 2 in the morning. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone. I scrolled to Aaron's photos. Found one from September 15th. Our kitchen table, my father's briefcase open, papers spread out. I zoomed in. I could see Gerald's handwriting on a notepad in the briefcase. Accelerant coverage clause. $825,000 term life. My father had been researching fire insurance payouts before we even signed the policy. In September. 2 months before Aaron burned to death in his workshop. People don't understand why I was in the hospital for 14 days. They think I could have left. That I stayed by choice. That I was avoiding going home. I couldn't go home. There was no home to go to. The fire started in Aaron's workshop at 2:06 a.m. on November 18th. But it didn't stay there. The accelerant, whatever my father used, spread faster than anyone expected. The workshop was attached to our house. By the time the fire department arrived at 2:14, both structures were fully involved. Everything burned. The nursery I'd painted, the crib Aaron built, the wedding photos on our bedroom wall, the quilt my grandmother made, Aaron's tools, his designs, his music collection, the life we'd built. All of it. Gone. I was admitted to St. Vincent on November 17th at 10:32 p.m. false labor, contractions that stopped after an hour. They wanted to monitor me overnight. Standard procedure for a woman 8.5 months pregnant. I was supposed to go home November 18th morning. Instead, at 2:34 a.m., a police officer called my hospital room to tell me my husband was dead. The doctor wouldn't let me leave. High-risk pregnancy, extreme emotional trauma, signs of premature labor. They kept me in room 3B for observation. November 18th turned into November 19th, then 20th, 21st. My parents didn't call, didn't visit, didn't ask if I was okay. Aaron's parents drove through the night. Tom and Linda arrived November 19th at 9 a.m., eyes red, voices broken, but they came. They stayed at a hotel 15 minutes away, visited every day, brought things the nurses said I needed, but they couldn't be there all the time. They had to eat, sleep, process their own grief. Their son was dead, so I spent most of those days alone, staring at the ceiling, trying to understand how Aaron could be gone, how our house could be gone, how I could be about to have a baby with no husband and no home. November 24th, evening. My body decided it couldn't wait anymore. Labor started fast, stress-induced, emergency C-section. Owen was born November 25th at 6:23 a.m., 6 pounds, 3 ounces, healthy, 1 week early. Tom and Linda arrived at 9:15, after the delivery, after the hardest part. Not because they didn't care, because I went into labor at 11 p.m. and everything happened too fast for them to drive from their hotel. So yes, I gave birth alone. No husband, no parents, no one who grew up with me. Just me and the medical team and the fear that I wasn't strong enough to do this. But I did it. And Owen was perfect. And when Tom held him for the first time, he cried and said, "He looks just like Aaron." I waited 3 days. November 25th, 26th, 27th. Waiting to see if my own parents would come. If they'd want to meet their grandson. If they'd ask how I was. They finally showed up November 28th at 2:18 p.m. And you already know how that went. After they left at 2:29, I sat in silence for 9 hours. Nurses came in to check on me. Check Owen's vitals. Bring me food I couldn't eat. Ask if I needed anything. I needed to know if I was crazy. If the texts on Aaron's phone meant what I thought they meant. If the insurance policy my father pushed so hard for was what I suspected. If my own father could have... I couldn't finish that thought. At 11:30 p.m. on November 28th, I made the call. Clayton, fire marshal. Aaron's friend from the fire academy. The man who'd investigated Aaron's death. The man who'd been waiting for someone to ask the right questions. I pressed call. It rang 4 times. "This is Clayton." "Clayton," I said, my voice shaking. "This is Rita, Aaron's wife. I need to ask you about the fire." There was a pause. Then his tone changed completely. "Rita, I'm glad you called. I've been trying to reach Aaron's family but didn't have your number. There's something wrong with this fire." I closed my eyes. Part of me had hoped I was wrong. That grief was making me paranoid. That my father couldn't possibly... "My father," I said. "He was at the scene, wasn't he? He was the first one there." Clayton's voice was careful. professional. Before us, before anyone. Your father arrived at the scene at 2:11 a.m. The 911 call came in at 2:09. We got there at 2:14. He was already there. How far away does he live? 18 minutes, in normal traffic. So how did he... That's what I've been trying to figure out, Clayton said. Rita, I need you to tell me everything you know, every detail, no matter how small. I told him about the insurance, about September, about the texts, about the photo of my father's briefcase with accelerant coverage written in his notes. Clayton was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Don't sign anything your parents give you. Don't agree to anything. I'll be there in 2 days. I'm bringing a detective. And Rita, I'm glad you called." I couldn't sleep after that call. Owen woke every 3 hours to feed. My body ached from the C-section. My mind wouldn't stop running through the timeline, over and over. September 15th. Insurance policy. September 16th. My father pays $3,200. September 20th. Aaron labels the envelope, hides the full copy. November 16th. My father buys... what? Something. I didn't know what yet, but something happened. November 16th. November 17th. The texts. Confirming where I was, where Aaron was. November 18th. 2:06 a.m. fire. November 18th. 2:11 a.m. My father arrives. Impossible unless he was already close. I pulled Aaron's phone from my bag. His parents had given it to me along with his wallet and wedding ring, the things that survived because they were in his truck, not in the workshop. I unlocked it. Passcode was my birthday. 0328. I went to his photos again, scrolled back to September, found more pictures I'd missed before. September 15th. Our kitchen table, my father's briefcase. I zoomed in on different corners of the photo. Multiple shots. Aaron had taken several. In one, I could see forms sticking out, insurance documents. But underneath them, another paper, a receipt. I squinted, couldn't make it out. I went to Aaron's notes app, found the entry from September 16th. G pushed really hard on $825,000, asked how he calculated it. He changed subject. Why 825? Why not 500 or 1 million? Feels weirdly specific. Rita trusts him. Don't want to cause problems. But something's off. Aaron knew. On some level, he knew something was wrong. But he stayed quiet. For me. To keep peace with my family. And it got him killed. I compared the insurance forms my parents had brought to Aaron's saved copy. The hospital version was missing page 3, the rights and options page. But it was also missing something else. A signature. On Aaron's copy, page 4 had my father's signature as witness. But below that, in a different ink, was another signature. Added later. My father had added himself as financial guardian, minor child, if applicable. If I'd signed the forms they brought today, the ones without page 3, I would have been signing paperwork that made my father Owen's financial guardian, giving him control over the $825,000 on behalf of my son. I would have given him the money. That's what the visit was about. Not checking on me, not meeting Owen, getting those signatures while I was vulnerable, while I was alone, while I was bleeding and exhausted and grieving. My father needed me to sign before I understood what I was signing. I took photos of everything. Aaron's copy, the hospital copy, the differences between them, the texts, the timeline. At 11:52 p.m. on November 28th, I texted Clayton. I found something. You need to see this. He responded at 11:54. Send me everything. Photos, documents, whatever you have. I'm coming tomorrow with Detective Elaine. Don't tell anyone. I sent him 12 photos. Every angle, every page, every detail. Then I waited. Owen slept on my chest. Warm, breathing, alive. My father had expected him to grow up without both parents, expected to raise him on insurance money. Money paid out because he'd murdered Owen's father and thought he'd killed Owen's mother, too. I looked at my son's sleeping face. "I'm so sorry," I whispered. "I'm so sorry I trusted him. I'm so sorry I didn't see it." But I saw it now. And Clayton was coming, and my father had no idea what was about to walk through that door. If you want to hear what happened when the fire marshal finally confronted my father, and you've ever had family betray you when you needed them most, leave a comment below. I want to know I'm not alone in this. November 30th, 3 p.m. Knock on the door. I'd been expecting it, but my heart still jumped. "Come in," I said. The door opened. Clayton walked in first. Fire marshal uniform, Portland Fire and Rescue badge on his chest. He looked different than I remembered from Aaron's funeral. More official, more serious. Behind him, a woman, 40-something, detective shield on her belt, recording device, visible. "Rita," Clayton said. "This is Detective Elaine, Arson and Homicide Division." Homicide. The word sat in the room like a weight. "Before we start," Clayton continued, "I need to tell you this is now a criminal investigation, officially. Everything we discussed today is on record." I nodded, held Owen a little closer. Elaine stepped forward. "We've reviewed everything you sent, the insurance documents, the text messages, the timeline, the photos." She paused. "We also have evidence from the fire scene that supports your concerns." "What kind of evidence?" I asked. Clayton pulled out a tablet, showed me photos, burn patterns, 3 distinct V-shapes. Northeast corner, southwest corner, southeast corner of the workshop. "Fires don't start in 3 places at once," he said. "Not accidentally. Someone set this." Elaine added, "We found traces of mineral spirits in the debris, paint thinner, accelerant." "Aaron didn't use paint thinner," I said. "He only used water-based finishes. Eco-finish supply. I have the invoices." "We know," Clayton said. "We checked. Your husband hasn't ordered mineral spirits in over 2 years." "So where did it come from?" Elaine opened a folder, pulled out a receipt. "Benson's Hardware, November 16th, 4:32 p.m. 2 gallons mineral spirits, paid in cash." Security footage showed the buyer, my father. I stared at the receipt. November 16th, 2 days before Aaron died. "We have a warrant for your father's phone records and financial transactions," Elaine said. "But we'd like to talk to him first. Get his statement. See what he says when we ask about..." Knock on the door. We all froze. 3 sharp knocks. Then the door opened before anyone answered. My father walked in, my mother behind him, and a nervous-looking man in a suit carrying a briefcase. They stopped. My father's eyes went to Clayton's uniform, then to Elaine's badge, then to me. His face drained of all color. "Rita," he started. His voice different than it had been 2 days ago, higher, uncertain. "We brought someone to help you with the paperwork." He stopped mid-sentence, because Clayton had stood up, because Elaine had stepped forward, because my father recognized Clayton from the fire scene, from November 18th at 2:14 a.m. when the fire trucks arrived, and my father was already there. "Mr. Howard," Clayton said calmly, "I've been hoping to talk to you." My father's hand gripped the door frame, knuckles white. "We'll come back later," he said, already turning. "Sir." Elaine moved between him and the door. "We have questions about November 18th. This will only take a moment." My mother looked confused. "Gerald, what's going on? Why is there a fire marshal here?" The man in the suit, the notary public they'd brought, was backing toward the corner, reading the room, realizing this wasn't what he'd signed up for. "Mr. Howard," Clayton said, "how did you arrive at 2847 Willow Creek Road at 2:11 a.m. on November 18th? Silence. "You live 18 minutes away," Clayton continued, "in good traffic, but you arrived 5 minutes after the 911 call, before any emergency vehicles. How is that possible?" My father's mouth opened, closed. I was driving. Couldn't sleep. "At 2 a.m.? Elaine asked. "On a Tuesday? Driving specifically toward your daughter's house?" "I was just... Dad." They all turned to look at me. I was still holding Owen, still sitting in the hospital bed. But my voice was steady. "Why did you text Aaron that night?" I asked. "Why did you need to know if I was with him?" My father's face went from white to gray. And then he ran, spun toward the door, tried to push past Elaine. "Mr. Howard, you need to stay." But he was already at the door, hand on the handle. That's when I knew for certain. Innocent people don't run from fire marshals. They don't flee when asked simple questions. They don't try to escape their daughter's hospital room when police want to talk. My father knew exactly what they were going to find, because he'd done it. Elaine blocked the door. "Sir, we're not done. Please sit down." My mother was staring at my father like she'd never seen him before. "Gerald, what is happening? Why are you trying to leave?" But my father didn't answer. He just looked at me, and in his eyes, I saw it. Guilt, fear, and the realization that everything he'd built in the dark was about to be dragged into the light. Clayton gestured to the chairs. "Please, sit." My father didn't move. He stood with his back against the door. My mother sat slowly, hands shaking. The notary had already left, slipped out during the confrontation. Smart man. Elaine pulled out her tablet. "Let's start with the timeline, Mr. Howard. November 18th, 2:06 a.m. Fire reported at 2847 Willow Creek Road. Your son-in-law's workshop, 2:09 a.m. 911 call placed by neighbor, 2:11 a.m. You arrive on scene." She looked up at my father. "Fire trucks arrived at 2:14. We were 3 minutes behind you. How?" My father swallowed. "I told you I was driving. I saw the smoke. From 18 minutes away?" Clayton said. "At 2 in the morning. You saw smoke from 18 minutes away through a residential area with trees and houses blocking the view." No answer. "Let me show you what we found," Clayton continued. He pulled up photos on the tablet, the workshop, or what was left of it. Blackened beams, collapsed walls, and 3 very distinct burn patterns. "This is a V pattern," he said, pointing to the northeast corner. "See how it starts low and spreads up and out? Classic indicator of where a fire originates." He swiped to the next photo. "Here's another one, southwest corner." Another swipe. And another, southeast. He looked at my father. "Electrical fires don't start in 3 corners simultaneously, Mr. Howard. You know that. You worked in insurance for 35 years. You've seen fire investigation reports. You know what this means." My mother's voice came out small. "What does it mean?" "It means someone set the fire," Elaine said, "deliberately, with accelerant." "What kind of accelerant?" my mother asked. "Mineral spirits," Clayton said. "Paint thinner." The lab found traces throughout the debris, concentrated in those 3 corners. But here's the interesting part. He pulled up another document, Aaron's supplier records. Aaron used exclusively water-based finishes. Eco-Finish Supply can confirm he hasn't ordered any petroleum-based products in over 2 years. He was environmentally conscious, wouldn't even have mineral spirits in his workshop. So where did it come from? My mother was looking at my father now. Really looking at him. Elaine pulled out the receipt. Benson's Hardware. Your husband purchased 2 gallons of mineral spirits on November 16th, 2 days before the fire. 4:32 p.m. paid in cash. Security footage confirms it was him. She slid the receipt across to my mother. My mother stared at it. Gerald? My father said nothing. Let's talk about the timeline, Clayton continued. November 17th, 11:52 p.m. Gerald texts Rita asking if she's home yet. She responds that she's at the hospital. Overnight observation. 11:58 p.m. Gerald texts Aaron. Quote, Rita staying at hospital tonight. You doing okay alone? Clayton looked at me, then back at my father. Why did you need to confirm your daughter wasn't home, Mr. Howard? Silence. Aaron responds at 12:04 a.m., says he's finishing the Brennan order, says he'll be done by 2. 2 hours later, at 2:06 a.m., the fire starts. Elaine took over. The workshop door showed no forced entry. Aaron let someone in, someone he trusted, someone who had a reason to be there at 1:50 in the morning. Aaron was wearing noise-canceling headphones. Clayton said quietly. He always did when using the sander. Made him vulnerable. Wouldn't have noticed smoke right away. By the time he did, he stopped. Looked at me. I nodded. I wanted to hear it. All of it. By the time he noticed flames had blocked both exits, the accelerant burned too fast. Too hot. Aaron died of smoke inhalation, not burns, meaning he was overcome before he could escape. Clayton's voice softened. He wouldn't have suffered long. That's the only mercy here. My mother was crying now, quiet, broken. There's more, Elaine said. The fire spread beyond the workshop, into the main house. We found accelerant traces in the bedroom as well. I felt my whole body go cold. My bedroom, she nodded. Your father used more accelerant than necessary. The fire was supposed to look like a workshop accident. Electrical, maybe a spark from a tool, but he overdid it. Spread it too wide, made it burn too hot. If you had come home that morning, I would have died too, I finished. Yes. The room went absolutely silent. My mother's voice came out as a whisper. You tried to kill Rita? My father's face was stone. No denial. No explanation. Just silence. Here's what we believe happened, Elaine said. The plan was to kill Aaron. Make it look like an accident. Then manipulate Rita, grieving, pregnant, vulnerable, into signing over the insurance money. Either directly or by making Gerald the financial guardian for the baby. She pulled out the forms my parents had brought 2 days ago. These forms are beneficiary declination paperwork. If Rita had signed them, she would have waived her right to the $825,000 payout. And this section here, she pointed to a clause near the bottom. This would have made Gerald the legal financial guardian for Owen, giving him control of the funds on behalf of the minor child. If Rita signed these, Elaine continued, Gerald would have gotten the money anyway. Even though she survived, my mother was shaking her head. Over and over. No, Gerald wouldn't. Mrs. Howard, Elaine said gently, did you know about any of this? No. My mother looked at me, eyes desperate. Rita, I swear, I didn't know. I thought it was an accident. Gerald said it was an accident. He cried when he called me from the fire. She stopped, looked at my father. You cried on purpose, she said slowly. You manufactured that. All of it. My father still said nothing. Mr. Gerald Howard, Elaine said formally, you're under arrest on suspicion of first-degree murder, arson, insurance fraud, and attempted murder. She began reading his Miranda rights. I held Owen, watched my father's face as his entire world collapsed, and I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no rage, no grief. Just cold, clear certainty that I'd made the right call. What do you think happens to my father now? Does he go to prison for life? Or does he try to make a deal? And what about my mother? Should I have forgiven her for abandoning me? Or are some betrayals too deep to come back from? Leave your predictions in the comments. My father looked at me, really looked at me for the first time since walking in. You're really doing this? His voice cracked. To your own father? I shifted Owen in my arms, made sure his head was supported, made sure he was comfortable, safe. Then I looked my father in the eye. You killed my husband, I said. My voice steady, calm. You tried to kill me. You're not my father. You're a murderer. I was trying to help you. His voice rising, desperate. The money would have set you up for life. Both of you would have... He stopped, realized what he'd said. Both of you, Clayton repeated. Both Rita and Aaron. You expected them both to die. My father's mouth opened, closed. The confession had slipped out. In front of a fire marshal, a detective, a recording device. Me. My mother stood up, screaming. You told me it was an accident. You said you were asleep when you got the call. You said... She couldn't finish, couldn't breathe through the sobs. Mrs. Howard, Elaine said, would you like to make a statement? Separate yourself from your husband's actions? My mother looked at her, then at me, then at my father. Yes, she whispered. Yes. I want to tell you everything I know. I want... Her voice broke. I didn't know what he did. I swear I didn't know. My father turned to her. Judith, don't do this. We're a family. We're not a family. I cut in. Everyone looked at me. I was still holding Owen, still sitting in my hospital bed. But my voice filled the room. You calculated how much my life was worth. $825,000. You bought the materials to burn my husband alive. 2 gallons of mineral spirits for $63. You texted him to confirm he'd be alone. You went to his workshop at 2 a.m. and he let you in because he trusted you. And then, you watched him die. My voice didn't shake, didn't waver. You came to this hospital 3 days after I gave birth and told me I was a burden. Told me I was never your responsibility. You brought paperwork designed to steal my son's inheritance while I was bleeding and alone, and holding a baby who would never know his father. I paused. Let it land. That's not family. That's evil. My mother was bent over in her chair, hyperventilating. A nurse came in to check on her, brought her water, sat with her. Elaine had my father's hands behind his back now, handcuffs clicking into place. I will testify against you, I told him. I will make sure everyone knows what you did. My father's face crumbled. For a moment he looked old, broken. Rita, please. No. That was all I said. Just no. Elaine led him toward the door, called for security to escort him out. The hallway was full. Nurses, other patients' families, people with phones out, filming. My father being walked out of St. Vincent Medical Center in handcuffs. Murder suspect. Arsonist. The man who killed his own son-in-law for money. As he passed my doorway one last time, he tried to turn. Tried to say something. I looked away. I wouldn't give him my eyes. Wouldn't give him anything. The door closed. My mother was still there, still sobbing in the chair. The nurse had stayed with her. Elaine came back in without my father. Mrs. Howard, she said gently. We'd like to take your statement now. Downtown, separate from your husband. You'll want to have representation. We can arrange. I'll do it, my mother said, voice raw. Whatever you need. I'll tell you everything. She looked at me. I didn't know, Rita. I swear on my life I didn't know he killed Aaron. I believed her about that. The murder. She didn't know he'd set the fire, but she knew other things. She knew I was alone, knew I was vulnerable, knew I had nowhere to go, and she still told me to leave. You didn't know about the fire, I said quietly. But you came here 3 days after I gave birth and told me to go back to my in-laws. You didn't ask if I was okay. You didn't hold your grandson. You were here for 11 minutes. My mother's face crumpled. You didn't check on me once after Aaron died. Not once. Whether Dad killed him or not, you made your choice about whether I mattered. Rita, please. I'm making mine. I didn't yell, didn't cry, just stated it as fact. My mother stood, followed Elaine out. The nurse went with them. And I was alone. Me and Owen. My 3-day-old son sleeping peacefully through everything. I looked at him. At his perfect tiny fingers curled against my chest. It's just us now, I whispered. Just us. And that's okay. We're going to be okay. For the first time since Aaron died, I believed it. December 1st. I was discharged from the hospital. 14 days total. November 17th to December 1st. The longest 2 weeks of my life. Tom and Linda took me to their hotel. They'd extended their stay. Rented a suite with 2 bedrooms. Set up a bassinet for Owen. Bought diapers and formula and everything we needed. Your family, Tom said when I tried to thank them. You stay with us as long as you need, no discussion. December 3rd, formal charges were filed. Gerald Howard, first-degree murder, arson, insurance fraud, attempted murder. The DA was pursuing maximum sentences. The evidence was overwhelming. Text messages, hardware store receipts, security footage, fire investigation reports, Aaron's phone with photos of my father's notes about accelerant coverage, the timeline that made any accident explanation impossible. My father was held without bail. Flight risk. Danger to others. The news picked it up. Local Portland station. Coin 6. Former insurance agent charged in son-in-law's murder plot. They kept my name private. The victim's widow was all they said. But the story went public. People my father knew. Former colleagues, neighbors, people from church. They all saw it. His attorney called. Asked if we could talk. Suggested a plea deal might be possible. My father refused. Said he could fight it. Said he could prove it was an accident. Said a jury would understand he was just trying to protect his family. He still didn't get it. December 18th. My mother called. I'd blocked her number twice. She kept calling from different phones. Finally, I answered. Rita. Her voice small, broken. Please, can we talk? I filed for divorce. I testified against him. I'm trying to make this right. You testified to save yourself, I said. Not because you understand what you did to me. I know I should have. You came to the hospital and told me I was never your responsibility. You watched me hold my newborn and told me to leave. You didn't ask if I was okay. You didn't offer help. You just left. Silence on the line. I know, she finally said. And I'm so sorry. Can we please talk about moving forward? About, you didn't check on me once after Aaron died, I interrupted. Not once. Not a single call. You waited 10 days and then came for 11 minutes to get me to sign papers. Whether you knew about the murder or not, you made your choice. Rita, I'm your mother. No, I said. Voice calm. Final. You're the woman who gave birth to me. That's biology. But mother is something you become through action, through showing up, through putting your child first. You didn't do any of that. I heard her crying on the other end. I'm sorry, she said again. I know you are, but some things can't be fixed with sorry. I hung up, blocked the number. Tom was in the room, had heard everything, didn't say anything, just handed me a tissue and sat down next to me. You did the right thing, he said quietly. Then why does it hurt? Because you loved them. And they taught you that love meant accepting whatever they did. But you're teaching yourself something different now. He looked at Owen sleeping in the bassinet. You're teaching yourself that love is also about boundaries, about protecting yourself and your child from people who would hurt you. January, I moved to Seattle, 2.5 hours from Portland. Close enough that Tom and Linda could visit. Far enough that I'd never accidentally run into anyone from my past. Small apartment in Capitol Hill. 1 bedroom. I put Aaron's photo on Owen's nursery wall. Made sure my son would know his father's face. Would know who Aaron was.